Well, it was David's mother who... David was... My parents were really Church of England. I was christened in the Church of England.
Right.
And then when we moved house, for some unknown reason, we went to the Methodist Church. And I don't know why they chose that, but because my dad was a Quaker. And we went to the Methodist Church, and I was heavily involved in all the activities at the Methodist Church, you know, the junior choir, and, you know, we had a very organised and structured church, chapel really. And that's what I did as I grew up in my teens, and, you know, in the Brownies and the junior choir, the senior choir, and junior dramatics, senior dramatics.
Yeah.
So you can tell it's dramatic, you know, and but it was a very creative centre church, chapel. It was a chapel where we had quite a few very creative people, and so I grew up with this creativity. You know, when it came the day for a special service, someone would write a service, and they would write, one time was the building of the cross. It must have been Easter, I guess, and they made tablets of wood and then attached flowers to them.
Fantastic.
And every child put a tablet and said something, you know, I can't remember what I said.
Sounds wonderful, yeah.
But it was that quite kind of a group of people. And so we had the very special spiritual meetings, and then of course we had the pantomimes every year, so... But it wasn't for him.
No.
So then he decided that he really was drawn to the spiritual life, and he was always seeking. I wasn't a seeker. I was quite happy with going on a Sunday, and I didn't understand half of what was going on, but nevertheless I liked the hymns and and the social side, and he went deeper, and he did quite a lot of investigation, and it was, we were married, and then about 3 years after we were married, he wrote after Unity. He found Lessons in Truth, and also when we were living in Bolton, he also met what's the other truth teacher? Joe Goldsmith. And he would go over to a friend of Joe Goldsmith, and they would all meet, Joel and his these friends, in this person's house.
Quite a person, isn't he, John Goldsmith?
Yes, yes. And then he would have meetings in Manchester, so David would go to those. I didn't, but he did. And it was after that he decided that he wrote off to Unity Village, and they said, well, start Lessons in Truth, so he did. And he sent in about 3 papers, and they said, you really, if you want to, we feel you should apply for the ministry, which was not what he expected, but the suggestion came from them. So he did, and he was accepted, and then we had a business at the time, so we sold that, and we went out on the Queen Mary to America.
And how did you feel, Doreen? Because this had been part of David's story, not yours.
It wasn't my... Well, I was very non-committal, and I said to him, you might go out there, but I will not leave the Methodist Church, because I felt that was my home. And so I was quite definite about that. And in fact, I didn't resign from the Methodist Church until we were in Fairfax, Virginia, about years later. And
amazing.
Yes, because I didn't want to.
But
he was full-time student, and in those days they went to classes for I think the morning and part of the afternoon, and in the afternoon they had to work in Silent Unity.
And Silent Unity, I mean, is the prayer ministry of
It's
the
the prayer
heart.
ministry of the heart.
So he was trained to do that as
Yes,
well?
he was trained to do that, and Jim Freeman was in charge of Silent Unity.
That's the
And he was
poet laureate.
Yes,
yeah.
and he was also the head of the ministerial students.
Okay, right.
So he combined the roles.
Yeah.
But he was, yes, he was, and he kept a very close eye on all the students, and they wouldn't get away with anything. I mean, it was quite interesting.
Yeah.
But
what did you do at this time?
I worked in silent. Well, they gave me a job reading Silent Unity letters. That's why I've always been very close to it. May
No,
Rowland,
I never knew
yes.
that. As long as I've known you, I've never knew that. That's interesting.
May Rowland was in charge of
Right.
director of Silent Unity.
Okay.
And so I went to work in Silent Unity as soon as we got there, really.
Yeah.
And they had a system whereby they had Healing 1, Healing 2, the different categories were all split up.
Right.
And so when you first started, you were in Healing 1, and you didn't progress to Healing 2 until you fully understood and could handle the affirmations and the prayers and the fillings. Tuesday afternoon was teaching time, so we got an afternoon off on about an hour off, or half an hour maybe, and it was tuition time.
Right.
And so we took a class at that time, and one of the teachers, licensed teachers, would teach a class, and I took Lessons in Truth. That was the first class you ever took, Lessons in Truth, and my teacher was called Edna, and there were about 8 of us in the class, and so every Tuesday afternoon we'd trot off to Edna with our questions that she'd given us, and she would take them and mark them, and then we get a new set to work on for the following week. We all had to go to Sunday school, and we had to be 7-year-olds, and we had to sit at the little tables and really be children.
What was that like? Was that a great experience for you? Because you taught Sunday school, hadn't you?
Yes, I had.
Yeah.
It was a great experience because, you know, I think it was very good. And Mary used to take us down, and we would have to be naughty sometimes.
Yeah.
Just like little children were. But it was excellent training.
Yeah.
Excellent training, because
absolutely.
Where else do you get that? You don't get that at a Methodist church. When we went up to the school, they said, you can come and train here, but you have to go back to England. Well, there was never any question about us going back, because our families were here. So we had no intention of staying in America. And so we came back, and he did work out in the field for 12. He worked at Unity House, which he was working on writing letters, I think, and I can't just remember exactly what he was doing. And he was going out to groups, and there was not much counselling, but and he was taking classes, so he was doing everything that he had to do. And then Unity House said, well, it's time you really went out into the field. And so they said, choose somewhere and then start a ministry. And so he chose Manchester.
Wow.
Because our families were around that area. And he started a centre ministry up there.
From nothing?
From nothing.
Wow.
Yeah, that was tough going. Yeah, but he did it, and he went around to groups. Bob had set up these home groups, and then the groups had gone into taking
Is that Bob Sicking?
Bob Sicking.
Yeah.
You know, renting premises. And so David would go around to the different groups, like to Blackburn and Blackpool and I don't know, all these little towns really, where there would perhaps be between 5 and 10 people, and they would meet, and he went round every night in the month. He was somewhere different.
Wow.
But that takes sheer effort.
Yes.
You don't get anything through not working.
And you have to do it against all the odds, don't you, in
You
a way?
do.
You pitch
Yes,
up,
you
and
have
if
to do.
there's 2 people there, they become as valuable as if there were 2,000, don't they?
Well, he said that, you know. I said to him, I think he was at Blackburn, and I said, how many people were there tonight? And he said, 5. And I said, you know, David, it's a long way to go for 5 people. And he just turned around to me and said, if only one person got help, it was worth it. And that really put me in my place. I'd completed all my stuff, you know, and courses, and he said, Foster McClellan came over and said, no, the school would like you to become a minister. And I said, but I don't want to become a minister. And they didn't push me or anything. They just said, well, think about it and see how you feel. And I said, I don't want to. Spiritually, it was a responsibility. And I didn't know whether I could fulfil that.
Because
So-
you already were Director of Silent Unity, the prayer ministry in the UK, weren't
Yes,
you?
I was, yeah. And it was Foster who suggested it. And I said to David, I don't want to. He said, you've got to do what you feel right about. It's no good doing something that you don't want.
Because other people want you to do it,
yeah. So it was
So he gave you complete freedom.
absolute freedom. And it took me 8 months to decide. And I was down in the prayer room. And I don't know what I was doing down there. Maybe they said, well, we just need to know one way or the other, you know. But I was down in the prayer room, and I was just sitting there quietly by myself. This was at Unity House.
In Bourne Hill
In
Avenue.
Bourne Hill Avenue.
Yeah.
And I just sat there, and then all of a sudden it just said, yes, say yes, out of the blue. And
So you said yes?
I said yes.